What's going on, fellow A-plussers? It is I, your host, as always, Adam Perez, certainly coming through once again with a brand new review as we're set to go ahead and get into the Book of Boba Fett Chapter 2, guys. Certainly coming through each and every Wednesday for you guys as we set to go ahead and break down the limited series all the way through. So certainly join us every Wednesday live at 7 p.m., ladies and gentlemen. But today's episode, we're going to be breaking down for you guys Chapter 2. I got to be honest, I actually enjoyed this episode a little bit more than I did the first one. I thought this episode did a much better job with its time management, to certainly say the least. You know, I know this episode was a little bit longer, 51 minutes, I believe, with credits. I believe last week's episode was what, like 37 minutes with credits or so. And while I certainly didn't mind the first episode, I thought it got off to a pretty good start. It's an episode that I certainly enjoyed. You know, one of the things and issues that I had with it was how much time we spent per se in the flashbacks and in the past, and learning about what happened with Boba after he got out of the Sarlacc pit, and very little time sort of in the present, where I thought this episode did a much better job, especially with the longer episode length, is that I honestly thought that they balanced their storytelling relatively well. I thought we got a nice little chunk of information in regards to the present day situation that we find Boba in, and a really great, powerful story when it comes to the Tusken Raiders. So far, the flashback moments have definitely been my favorite aspects of this particular show so far. I've really enjoyed seeing not only how Bubba returns, but also just getting an opportunity to see what his personality is like, seeing his interactions with the Tuskens. And also at the same time, I think Jon Favreau as the writer is really opening my eyes a little bit as to the world of the Tusken Raiders, been shrouded in mystery, or going so far back as A New Hope when Obi-Wan Kenobi mentions them, right? They kind of come across as like these mindless beasts, if you will. And so to be able to see what Boba is doing with the Tusken Raiders, his communicating and things like that, and what he's kind of really turning to, definitely gives me a much better sense of who the Tusken Raiders are, and really opening my eyes, right? Because back all for some reason, every time I think of the Tusken Raiders, I go back to Star Wars, Attack of the Clones, right? When Anakin tries to save his mom and comes to find his mom dies in the Tusken Raider camp, sort of thing, right? And he comes back to the camp, and Padme asks him what's wrong, and he goes, I killed them. I killed them all, every single one of them, and not just the men, but the women and the children too. What did he say? He says, they're animals. So I slaughtered them like animals, right? Like, it always comes across like the Tusken Raiders are truly like mindless beasts. Just watching these two past episodes of Boba, I've really enjoyed seeing the involvement of the Tusken Raiders in this particular series so far, guys. So let's go ahead and dive into it. And listen, by the way, if you guys are certainly watching live at any particular point in time, if you do want to go ahead and never, feel free to join us as far as discussion goes. If you have any particular questions, if there's any particular moments in the episode that you guys certainly want to go ahead and bring up and talk about, you certainly can certainly join me for discussion here at any particular point in time. Or if you have questions about the episode after you certainly watch it, feel free to Gmail. Again, that's aplusopinions@gmail.com. If you ever have any live viewer questions and want to talk a little Boba Fett with us, certainly feel free to go ahead and submit them over at any particular point in time. And again, if you're watching live, feel free to go ahead and join in the comment section and let your thoughts be known on this week's episode. So let's go ahead and dive into it, man. We'll talk a little bit about the present day real quick, because again, while we didn't have too much to sink our teeth into, I thought it was actually pretty interesting, right? We still had that assassin, that Fennec Shan, wind up actually getting from last week's episode, bringing him back eventually. And we come to find out that he's actually an assassin of the Night Wind. He admits to the idea that the mayor certainly sent him, but when we do actually confront the mayor in this episode, he knows nothing of it. Now, whether or not homeboy's lying, or who certainly knows the case, but this assassin of Night Wind, I thought was pretty hilarious, at least in the sense of when they submit him over to the Rancor, think like, well, if you're not going to talk to us, maybe I'll talk to the Rancor. And when they drop him in there, I honestly thought with the Rancor, they might have replaced the Rancor that was in there from Return of the Jedi, but unfortunately, no Rancor to certainly be found in there. But enough to certainly get homeboy to piss in his pants, enough to certainly go ahead and let him know the mayor sent me. The mayor sent me. And I think that's something that we even talked about last week. Like, I wonder who sent him. It wouldn't surprise me if it was in fact the mayor, even though the mayor in this episode is admitting to the idea, like, hey, I didn't know anything about it. He there certainly didn't come from me whatsoever. But so I'm at least glad that we got the opportunity remember the rest, of this particular alien. Stuff tells me Authorian. I it's Authorian. I could be wrong in regards to that. If you guys let me know in the comment section box below. But I love that advice given to Boba is harder than bounty hunting in the sense that, look, you got all of Mos Espa that you think you can just come in, sit on the throne, own. There's a lot more pieces that certainly go into play than certainly just that, right? There is this huge power struggle that's certainly coming into play. And we definitely get the opportunity to see that not only with the mayor, show what he's certainly made of, but also the idea that we've got the twins that wind up showing up. That's right, Hutt twins, the cousins of Jabba the Hutt, certainly come through. And I did laugh and chuckle at the idea of just seeing all these men like having a whole these two Hutts up the entire time, right? It's a quick callback to episode 1 when Fennec's like, you really let these more. You see in here, so these twins are all over the place. Do cool awards, but a really cool Wookiee that wind up strolling up. Clearly, one of the twins. Part of me's kind of hoping so. There we go. I'm curious if it'll stay back or not. I'm trying to debate whether or not I should just stop this and just record this review at the end of the day. We'll see though. We'll see how this holds up. If anything, maybe I'll edit it and re-upload this particular video. So we'll see what happens here. But my thing is, don't tease me with this Wookiee and then not show me this badass battle, because I really do feel like, for the most part, I really want to see these two characters throw down as soon as possible, honestly. So hopefully that's something that we'll definitely get going forward. But yeah, the power struggle is definitely real here. The Hutts are certainly not going anywhere, even though they decide, you know what, we don't want to necessarily have bloodshed on the streets of Mos Espa. That's not really how we do business, right? It's not a good look for all the other, companies and businesses that are certainly running around here, especially the idea of how we certainly handle everything. So they definitely want their seat. They definitely feel like they're certainly the rightful owners now that Jabba is certainly gone. But clearly Boba Fett feels, hey, I claim this throne first. It's mine. You're going to have to take it over my dead body, sort of thing. And so I'm really hoping that we get a showdown between this Wookiee that we have here. I have no idea exactly, again, what his name is, this Wookiee's name is, but he looks like a pretty formidable warrior to me. So I'm really looking forward to it. But the money of this episode, for me, guys, truly comes from the opportunity to see his time once again with the showing him actually training him. Clearly his good deed from the previous episode has made him free and kind of respected amongst the other Tuskens and things like that. And they definitely don't go easy on him, and especially when it comes to some of their training. So they definitely found him formidable enough, which I found pretty interesting. And honestly, the introduction to the sand bullet train I thought was pretty cool little innovation here. For some reason, the first thing that came to my mind was Snowpiercer, but just in the sand. But we come to find out, did they even mention the crime syndicate group that these characters were from that were on the bullet train? I don't believe they mentioned the syndicate that they were from. There's a part of me that's like the Crimson Dawn crime syndicate from Solo, because I am kind of curious like what other cameos we certainly might get this year or in this particular season. Maybe Kira from Solo maybe pops up in here. I don't know if she is still in power of the Crimson Dawn by this particular point in time, but I am interested to kind of find out who the crime syndicate was in charge of this particular bullet train. But this bullet train is just coming straight through the dune scene. Dunsi knocking off Tusken Raiders one by one every time it certainly passes by, and it continues to dwindle the numbers of the Tuskens. And Boba Fett decides to take it upon himself to go ahead and put a stop to it, which I thought was actually pretty badass of him. I mean, the idea that this guy trudges over to the local bar where he finds a couple of speeders and goes ahead and knocks some people out in order to capture those speeders and bring them back to the certainly teach them how to ride it. I love the action sequence in that bar too. Tamora Morrison just does an incredible job as Boba. Like the ferocity that he has, like in his facial features. Like this is a man like I would not want to bump into down a dark alley whatsoever. I mean, the guy just looks ferocious and terrifying, and he just puts out the visceral violence anytime he gets his hands on a weapon. And so I absolutely love how they present Boba anytime that there's an action sequence in here, because he did not let up on those aliens in the bar whatsoever in order to go ahead and bring back the speeders. Hilarious moment. I love the humor in this episode too, in regards to having to teach them how to ride a speeder. In the meantime, also them getting their plan prepped to how they're going to go ahead and bring down this bullet train. And it's just a classic Western, guys, in the sense of, here we go, pulling off a train heist, right? Definitely going back to a lot of those core ideologies that George Lucas was really inspired by, right? Whether that be like classic samurai films, classic Westerns, it all kind of plays into this Tatooine sort of landscape that we have. And so to be able to see like a train heist in here, I thought was actually pretty good. To be honest, I actually thought the director of this episode did a much better job than even Robert Rodriguez did in episode 1, which is saying something. I do wish episode 1 was a little bit longer. I love the amount of time that we wind up getting with this episode, because it really did allow for these action sequences to truly breathe, and really made this train sequence even that much more epic at the end of the day. So I was really, really pleased with it. But the one thing that I realized and I learned from this episode alone is that, Boba Fett is really helping the Tuskens become sort of a more respectable people, right? Like a tribe to finally be recognized, if you will, right? Like I feel like the flashbacks are showing us why Boba Fett is great for the job of daimyo over on Mos Espa. Why he's in that position to begin with, right? The idea that he lets the people that control the train live and go back to their people with an understanding that, look, going forward, you got to respect this land. You guys need to pay a toll if you ever want to certainly come through this way again, right? Bolstering up the Tuskens, making them a formidable tribe, giving them brand new technology and equipment and armor and things like that for them to go ahead and take sort of that next level up, if you will. Really showcasing his idea that he's not out here to just mindlessly kill people, right? It's that concept that he said in episode 1, respect over fear, and the idea that he's freely letting these people go with a message. I think it's sending that message perfectly clear, and it just feels like Fett is truly putting them in a position to succeed and be even respected even more when it comes to Tatooine. So it's one of those things, like if you can see him doing that for the Tusken Raiders, or Tatooine, or Mos Espa, or the fact of him sitting on that particular throne, there's a world shady aspect certainly going on. But these are his credentials, right? Like what they're showing us in the flashback, not only showing us where Boba Fett has come from up until this particular present day, but also why he has the credentials to want to sit on the throne and be in charge in the first place. And so to be able to see just that story of him with the Tuskens is pretty moving, honestly, for me, especially his spiritual journey that we get to see at the end of this episode, where they put Boba on this sort of quest, if you will. It reminds me of, I don't know if this is something like what if it's a Native American trait. I feel like I've seen it on TV and movies and just in general, not necessarily even with Native Americans, but the idea of like these sweat tents, right? Where you go in, if you want to get like that psychedelic sort of high, or be able to reach a different spiritual plane, right? The idea of going into these tents, whether that be just sweating your ass off, or taking something to like hallucinate, or just go into a really deep state in your mind sort of thing. The fact that they put Boba on this quest in a gnarly way by having like this gecko go up his nose. I've never seen anything like it, but it certainly puts him on a trip and has him definitely dreaming and thinking about all these images and trudging into the middle of nowhere sort of thing in order to really kind of battle maybe some of the demons that he certainly had to deal with, right? Whether that be the Sarlacc pit, whether that be watching the death of his father, or countlessly seeing his father leave him behind to kind of go on mission sort of thing, right? Seeing Boba go through that spiritual journey and come back with the branch of this tree that he was certainly fighting with, I thought was pretty powerful. And to see that particular branch then sort of crafted into what we know today as sort of like his bow staff, for me was very reminiscent of a Jedi in training putting together his own lightsaber for the very first time, right? Like that next step that you need in order to be recognized, whether that be as a Jedi Knight or whatever the case may be. It's that next step that you certainly need to take. And seeing him kind of put all on the robes and his outfit, having him specifically do it himself in regards to carving out the wood and stuff. I just thought it was just really cool, very symbolic, very impactful to kind of see how Boba has earned his right into the Tusken Raider camp and has also really established the Tuskens as a much more formidable group sort of thing. So I thought it was just a really cool story that they wind up putting together when it comes to Jon Favreau. Now, I'm sure some people probably wish maybe they focused a little bit more on the present day stuff, but I thought this episode had a pretty good balance and told an extremely good story. So I will be interested to see, now that we've seen Boba get his robes, get his weapon, is there going to be another time jump sort of thing going ahead? We're 2 episodes in. I am kind of curious as to like, is this after this particular moment? Does he leave and this is where he winds up meeting the child and a Mando sort of thing, right, on that other planet? How does he get his ship back sort of thing, right? Like, these are all questions that I definitely have and certainly want to see further explored. But I'm kind of curious to see like how long it's going to get them to finally get to how long is it going to take them to finally get to more present day, where past meets present? You know what I mean? So we'll definitely see. In regards to some rumors, guys, some heads up here for you guys, because we were just talking about maybe some cameos, characters that we would kind of certainly love to see in here, right? I've mentioned the idea of Kira from Solo, kind of wondering whether or not the Crimson Dawn might be playing any particular sort of role in here. Well, if you guys would like to know a rumor that's certainly going around, one of the rumors right now, and I don't know, this may be potential spoiler, I have no idea, but one of the rumors going around right now is the idea that Harrison Ford himself may be returning in a surprise appearance towards the end of this particular series. It says that Harrison Ford has been in London filmmaking Indiana Jones 5, and it's there that Disney rumoredly snuck him into the production of the Book of Boba Fett for 3 days to film his Han Solo cameo. With Disney overseeing both Indiana Jones 5 and Book of Boba Fett, it would exceedingly be an easy stunt casting to sort of pull off. And if anything, they would probably de-age Harrison Ford if that's something that they definitely pull off. So look, similar to how Luke Skywalker popped up at the end of Mandalorian Season 2, maybe this is exactly the kind of oomph and impact that you need towards the end of the Book of Boba Fett to maybe have a Han Solo certainly come back and reprise his role. Maybe there's still a little bit of a bone to pick with Boba after putting him in carbonite, right? I'm sure there would be a huge shock and awe just to kind of even, for Han to even see that Boba's alive after watching him fall into the Sarlacc pit, but a lot of potential there. I definitely would love to see how that moment plays out and what else does that particular moment lead to, if that's something that they're holding off for until the finale. But we'll see, guys. That's just currently a rumor right now, but one that I can easily wrap my head around and certainly believe. But honestly, guys, listen, at the end of the day, these are just simply my A+ opinions. I want to know yours, though. What did you guys think of the Book of Boba Fett Chapter 2? Did you like it better than the first episode, which I certainly did? I thought this was actually handled extremely well. Great storytelling, great pace. great character development and storyline developments for both Boba along with the Tusken Raiders, and getting to see exactly what this power struggle certainly looks like over on Tatooine right now. So hopefully episode 3 will get a little bit more present day stuff, really kind of see how Boba plans on getting everybody to be on board with him taking the throne over on Mos Espa. Go ahead and see. But look, I want to know your thoughts. Moments, storyline details. Let your thoughts be known in the comments box below. Particular video airs, but we'll definitely be back next Wednesday for you guys live at 7 p.m. Central Time to go over. But until then, do me a big favor. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A. May the force be with you.